I was about to give up on everything until my grandmother showed me an ordinary object that held the answer I'd been desperately searching for. What she revealed that evening didn't just change my perspective, it saved my life. My name is Alex, and 6 months ago, I was standing on the edge of giving up. Not in the dramatic way you see in movies, but in that quiet, suffocating way where you just stop trying, stop believing, stop hoping. I had everything people said I needed to succeed. Good grades, supportive parents, opportunities, but inside, I felt like a fraud waiting to be exposed. Every morning, I'd wake up with this crushing question. Am I good enough? Every night I'd go to bed with the answer. Probably not. My friends stopped inviting me out because I always said no. My parents would ask if I was okay, and I'd force a smile and say, just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was drowning in self-doubt, and I didn't know how to tell them. Then came that Tuesday evening that changed everything. I was sitting alone in the backyard. My college application spread out in front of me, all blank. The deadline was in 3 days, and I couldn't write a single word. How do you write about your dreams when you don't believe you deserve them? Mind if I join you? I looked up to see Grandma Rose walking toward me, carrying 2 cups of tea. She moved slowly, arthritis in her knees, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. Sure, Grandma, I mumbled, quickly closing my laptop. She sat down with a soft groan, handed me a cup, and just watched me. Not with judgment, not with pity, just present. The silence stretched between us like a bridge I was too afraid to cross. Finally, she spoke. You know what I see when I look at you, Alex? I shrugged. A disappointment? A young person carrying a weight that isn't theirs to carry. Something in her voice cracked open a door I'd kept locked. My eyes burned with tears I'd been holding back for months. Grandma, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I try so hard, but it never feels like enough. Everyone expects me to be this amazing person, and I'm just ordinary. Maybe even less than that. She reached into her cardigan pocket and pulled out something so simple, so unremarkable that I almost laughed. A pencil. Not a fancy pen. Not some high-tech gadget. Just an old, well-used wooden pencil with teeth marks near the eraser. This, she said, holding it up like a sacred treasure, belonged to your grandfather. I'd heard stories about Grandpa, Henry, how he'd built his business from nothing, how he'd helped dozens of people in our community, how everyone who knew him said he was the wisest man they'd ever met. He passed away when I was 5, so I barely remembered him. Before he died, Grandma continued, her voice thick with emotion, he gave me this pencil, and he made me promise something. She paused, studying my face. He made me promise that if I ever saw someone I loved drowning in doubt, I'd share what this pencil taught him. 5 truths that carried him through poverty, failure, loss, and every moment he felt like giving up. I leaned forward despite myself. A pencil taught him that. Not just any pencil, sweetheart. This one. And if you're willing to listen, really listen, it might just save you too. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves around us. Grandma held the pencil delicately like it might break. Your grandfather discovered the first truth when he was your age, working 3 jobs and still barely surviving. He was exhausted, angry, wondering why his dreams felt impossible while others seemed to coast through life. She held up the pencil. Then one night, staring at his empty journal, he realized something. This pencil in his hand, capable of writing poetry, solving equations, sketching masterpieces, couldn't do any of those things alone. It needed a hand to guide it, a mind to direct it, a purpose to fulfill. Her eyes met mine. Alex, you're not meant to figure everything out by yourself. The strongest people aren't those who need no one. They're the ones wise enough to accept guidance, to learn from others, to let themselves be held when they're falling. You think asking for help makes you weak? It makes you human. It makes you smart. I felt something shift in my chest. How many times had I suffered in silence? Because I thought I should have all the answers. The second truth, she continued, came during the hardest year of his life. He'd lost his first business. People called him a failure. He wanted to disappear. She rotated the pencil, showing me its sharpened point. He was sharpening a pencil one morning when it hit him. The process is painful. The pencil loses part of itself. It's ground down, scraped away. But that pain is exactly what makes it useful again. The sharpening isn't punishment, it's preparation. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Your struggles aren't signs that you're broken. Alex, they're shaping you into someone extraordinary. Every challenge you face is sharpening your character, your resilience, your wisdom. The pain has a purpose. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't wipe them away. The third truth, Grandma said gently, he learned when he made a mistake that cost him everything, or so he thought. She touched the pink eraser at the pencil's end. He was drowning in regret, convinced that one error had ruined his entire future. Then he looked at this eraser and realized it exists because mistakes are expected. They're built into the design of life. The question isn't whether you'll mess up, it's whether you'll learn from it and try again. She leaned closer. You're so afraid of making mistakes that you've stopped trying. But Alex, every successful person you admire has a history of failures they learned from. Your mistakes aren't endings, they're editing. They're rough drafts. They're the process of becoming who you're meant to be. I thought about all the applications I hadn't submitted, all the opportunities I'd avoided, all because I was terrified of failing. What had my fear cost me? The fourth truth, Grandma said, her voice growing stronger. He discovered in his 50s when people started celebrating his success. She ran her finger along the pencil's wooden exterior, then pointed to the graphite core inside. People praised his accomplishments, his wealth, his reputation. But he knew the truth. All of that was just the wooden shell. Temporary, superficial. The real value was inside. His character, his integrity, his kindness. That's what would outlast him. She gripped my hand. You're so worried about your achievements, your grades, your resume. But Alex, when you're gone, no one will remember your GPA. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember your character. That's where you should invest your energy, not in impressing people, but in becoming genuinely good. Something clicked. I'd been so focused on looking successful that I'd forgotten to focus on being the kind of person worth knowing. And the fifth truth, Grandma said, her eyes glistening now, he realized in his final days. She pressed the pencil to an invisible page. Every mark this pencil makes is permanent. Even if you erase it, there's still an impression. Your grandfather looked back at his life and realized every interaction, every choice, every moment, he'd been leaving marks. Some he was proud of, some he regretted, but all of them mattered. Her voice cracked with emotion. Alex, you're already making an impact. Every day you exist, you're leaving marks on the people around you. The question is, what kind of marks do you want to leave? Marks of kindness or indifference? Courage or fear? Love or judgment? She placed the pencil in my palm, closing my fingers around it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to show up as yourself. Guided by wisdom, strengthened by struggles, grace-filled with mistakes, rooted in character, and intentional about your impact. I sat there holding that old pencil, feeling its weight, not just the physical weight, but the weight of everything it represented. Grandma, I whispered, I've been so focused on becoming someone. Great that I forgot I'm already someone worthy. She pulled me into her arms, and for the first time in months, I let myself cry, really cry. Not tears of despair, but tears of release. That's it, sweetheart, she whispered. Let it out. Let it all out. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not the perfect essay I'd been trying to force, but my real story. Struggles, doubts, lessons, and all. I wrote about feeling lost and finding wisdom in unexpected places. I wrote about learning that success isn't about being flawless. It's about being authentic, resilient, and intentional. 3 days later, I submitted my applications. 6 months later, I got accepted. But that's not the important part. The important part is that I keep Grandpa Henry's pencil on my desk, right where I can see it every single day. When I doubt myself, I remember I need guidance, and that's okay. When life gets hard, I remember the pain is sharpening me. When I mess up, I remember mistakes are part of the process. When I compare myself to others, I remember my character is my true value. When I wonder if I matter, I remember I'm leaving marks every single day. Sometimes the most powerful life advice isn't hidden in expensive courses or best-selling books. Sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, in the simple, ordinary objects we overlook every day. And sometimes all we need is someone who loves us enough to help us see it. If you're struggling right now, if you feel like giving up, if you're drowning in doubt, I want you to know you're not broken. You're being sharpened. Your mistakes don't define you. Your character does. And the marks you're leaving on this world, they matter more than you know. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, willing to learn, and brave enough to keep trying. That's the advice hidden in plain sight. That's the wisdom that saved me. And maybe, just maybe, it's exactly what you needed to hear today.